There we go. Hi, everyone. This is Margaret Hirsch, your home with Hirsch's, and thank you for joining us on our fabulous wellness talk today. This is for everybody who's feeling a bit unsettled, a bit anxious, a bit not sure what's happening. What happened to life? I was going along with my life so merrily, and suddenly, whoosh, the wheels got pulled out from underneath us. We had COVID, we had looting, we had all sorts of things happening. We just have to cope. People like certainty, but they also like uncertainty. So while we love that certainty, the uncertainty really gets us going, shakes and rattles and rolls us and puts us out the other side. And we're just going to make sure we keep on going. Remember, if you stop running, you can walk. If you stop walking, you can crawl. If you stop crawling, just let it crawl your way inch by inch, but keep moving forward in the direction of your dreams. And you've got to know, why do most people not get what they want? They don't know what they want. So it's so important to have goals. This time of year, we're going to do a whole thing on goal setting, but we've got to make sure that we're going for, we know what we want. We know our purpose in life. You know, if you know your purpose, you can do anything. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome our guest speaker today, Lee. Thank you, Lee, so much for being with us today. Jess and Stacey, my co-hosts. And I'm going to now hand over to Stacey, who's going to introduce Lee to us today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And yeah, Margaret, you have said it. It's all about knowing our purpose and therefore living our purpose. So today we are here with Lee. Lee, thank you so much for joining us. Lee helps professionals who've lost themselves in their career and she helps to reclaim a sense of self so that they can fall in love with work and life all over again. As an executive life and career coach with 20 years of experience in corporate human resources, Lee understands the intricacies of managing work and life effectively. She is passionate about empowering professionals who are on the verge of burnout to work smarter and live fuller. How much do we all need to hear that? Her love of adventure has led her to live and work on 4 continents, and she continues to embrace possibility and personal development in her business and life. She values integrity, learning, and trust, and is quick to find peace in the African bush or under the ocean. That is so wonderful. Thank you so much, Lee. On to you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to Margaret for hosting these sessions, and to Jess and Stacey. I love what you guys are doing. And I'm really excited to talk to you about lessons from nature today, because yes, it is something that's really important to me. And I think that in the time of the world that we're in at the moment, that ability to reconnect with ourselves through something that is so, I want to say readily available to us, is really key for our overall health and well-being. And I know that we're not all on the screen at the moment, but I wanted to start with something to just help us. It's a little exercise that I'd like us to do just to kind of bring us together into this space. And what I'm going to suggest, we're going to do a quick, it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. It's a breathing exercise. And it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, but we're going to use 4, 5, 6. And I'll explain how that works. We're going to breathe in for the count of 4, hold for the count of 5, and breathe out for the count of 6. So I'm going to invite you all now. Your screens are off, so get comfortable in your chair. Close your eyes if you're happy to. And if you can, put your feet flat on the floor and your hand on your belly, and just settle yourself into your chair. And then we're going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4. 5, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just keep your hand on your belly. Notice what you're feeling. Notice where you are. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And that is our first lesson from nature. It is about our flow and finding our flow and being able to tap into this amazing resource that, we often don't think about. We actually don't think about how to breathe We can often, when we're stressed or anxious, we breathe, you know, when you it's almost like you're panting, you breathe really shallowly. And sometimes just to breathe slowly and deeply, it brings everything together into your system so that you can just take a moment and feel centered. And then you can decide from there whether you want to get kind of really ramped up and excited and get going with your day, or whether you're ready to kind of just experience some more of that calm. And I think so often we forget to look around at nature for the gifts that we get. If you think, I want to share with you, it's a kind of a little poem that I found by someone called Ilan Shamir, but I played with it a little bit. I love words. So I found this poem and it speaks so beautifully to this. It's called Advice from a River. And I loved it as a sense of go with the flow, because it says, go with the flow, easy is always downstream. Slow down and meander. Immerse yourself in nature. Find the path of least resistance. Flow expertly around obstacles. Bubble with excitement, because the joy is in the journey. So, flow for me is all about understanding how we relate to the world around us and how we engage with nature. And I wanted to ask a little bit, well, it's a bit of a question, if you like, that we can put perhaps an answer into the chat box, is what does flow mean for you? So just type a quick word into the chat box that describes what do you feel when you're in flow, in that place of, I want to call it, you know, when people talk about being in the zone. Margaret, moving forward. Yes. Movement, ease, free and easy, building energy. Peace. Yes. Easy. Moving in the, flexible. Oh, I like that. Flexible. That's fabulous. And you know, when we look to what's around us in nature, we can see all of that happening. We can see movement. We can see and feel peace when we connect ourselves with nature. Joy, emancipation. That's wonderful, isn't it? That sense of freedom that comes when we can step outside and breathe in the air. You know, it's something that is, it is a gift. It's our God-given right to be able to breathe easily and moving easily. Those are lovely, all of those. So my next question to you then is, given that we don't always find our flow, but we have to think about our resilience and how we, let's say, bounce back from difficult circumstances. What does the term resilience mean for you? Courage, strong, strength. Anything else? Being steadfast. Oh, keep going regardless. Survival. Yeah. And isn't that interesting? You know, if we take a look at how the natural world works, there is no able to weather the storm, bouncing back, whatever. If we look at the natural world around us, there's no straight line. You know, there's that lovely image that you see of everyone thinks their life is going to be A to B like that. And what they don't know is that it's actually A to B. And, you know, it kind of is quite a mess in between. And resilience is how we're able to, yes, bounce back, weather the storm, thriving through the hardship. And sometimes it's really helpful when you are in periods of intense stress to remind yourself of what comes from nature, to watch how nature moves around obstacles. And, you know, I always say life is challenging enough. And we have this kind of inbuilt thing that says it's good to struggle. We have to make things really difficult. And I want to invite you to think about whether just being able to go with the flow and find a softer way of doing things where your resilience comes in naturally because you're supporting yourself as you're doing this. It's if you think about a school of fish or a flock of birds as they fly around and they're all moving in unison, there is something very kind of beautiful that happens when you see all of those creatures moving together, and we forget that we are part of that system. And for us to be able to tap into that, and I love what you say there, Margaret, going with the flow is easier than swimming upstream so much. And we tend to forget about that, don't we? We kind of go, oh, problem, and we get stuck in the loop of, I have a problem, and so I dwell on the problem and I create more of the problem. Because what we focus on is what we get, whether we want it or not. And sometimes it's so easy to forget that and to get stuck in almost like a negative loop, when you're saying mean things to yourself, you kind of have that whip and you're like lashing yourself because you've done something that, was a mistake. Those are all ways that we can get stuck in exhaustion, I'm going to say, and we keep ourselves anxious and probably beating the drum of something that isn't working instead of looking for something that is working. And it's almost like if you think about nature after a fire, yeah. When there's a fire that sweeps through an area, especially an area of nature, and it's completely blackened and everything kind of disappears, it doesn't fix itself overnight, but it starts, that resilience starts coming back, and you start seeing little shoots and things that grow, and suddenly the little flowers are blossoming, and then suddenly the whole ecosystem is back in play. And we need to remind ourselves sometimes that, it doesn't take us overnight to get into a difficult situation. Sometimes it can be something that's emerged over time. And we can get lost, I suppose, in that space and forget to look to something positive. And one of the tools that I wanted to just mention to you is as a tool for kind of resilience is called TRE. Now, I don't know whether you will have heard of this. It's tension or trauma releasing exercises. And I'd love for you to go and do some research and find out about it. But essentially, TRE is I want to say it's a natural response that happens when our nervous system is triggered by a trauma, because we have fight, flight, or freeze responses. And TRE is the natural, it's the natural response that happens to us. And we've been told that that's the wrong thing. Like, stop shaking. No, don't worry. And if you think, Margaret, I always think about this when I see those lovely posts of yours that have the lioness and lioness, the lion and the lioness really symbolize power and strength and stuff. And we live very much in a world of sort of predator and prey. And you can see, if you've ever been to the bush, or if you've ever watched one of the documentaries where you see like a group of bokkies and a lion or a leopard or something comes charging in, and they all kind of, freak out and run and everything happens. And then if you ever watch them, the bokkies in particular afterwards, the way that they recover from that trauma is to shake. And what happens is that within 10 minutes, they're back to normal. They're chewing the bits of grass. They're not thinking about the trauma going, is the lion coming back? Like, what do I do? Oh my, I'm going to have to make sure that I don't go there, because then the lion, which is the kind of thing that we do to ourselves. And so there are so many indicators that we can look to in nature to say, actually, this is a natural response. It doesn't have to mean it's a pathogenic, like it's a bad response. And I would encourage you to have a look for TRE. It was created by, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's a chap called Dr. David Berceli, Bercelli. I put it in the chat. And just go and have a look at that as a tool for how you can help yourself naturally when you have dealt with a trauma. Yeah. And now I'm going to hand over to any one of my three lovely Margaret, Jason, Stacey, just so that I can have a moment, because I feel like I've been talking a lot.
No, well, it was lovely. I must say, I was absolutely enthralled with it. And I think that to start off with the breathing, that breathing is one that I didn't even know what it was called. I didn't know there was a way of doing it, but I do that as well. And I try and get my staff to do it as well in the mornings when they're really anxious about things. We do breathe as well. So that was fantastic. TRE I'd never heard of before, so I'm very interested to hear. And they've even got a specialist who just specializes in TRE. So that was something that I think is just amazing. And I think, especially when you're working with the public, we really need that. We have what's called anchoring at Hirsch's, where we think of it when we're in our happy place, which to me is at my farm with all my little grandsons playing around. That's my happy place. And I anchor it by squeezing here between my thumb and between my thumbs. My husband goes like this. You have something that we anchor ourselves. We anchor that happy feeling. So if you're dealing with a really difficult customer, and we do get them, they're really difficult. They're screaming, they're shouting, they're performing. And I always say to my staff, it's nothing to do with you. You've got to understand it's them. They're feeling that way. They're trying to project it onto you. But we wear our uniform as our armor, which keeps it away from us personally. And then you've got to calm that person down. And then often the time, you've got to go back, you've got to deal with another person who now has come to spend 100,000 Rand on their kitchen stuff, and you've got to be all sweetness and light. How do you swap from that to that? And I think that tension, I put tension reducing, but Shane says tension releasing exercise. That to me is a tension releasing exercise, just by anchoring yourself. I'm back in my happy place. Now I can move on and deal with this other person and not be able to take all the angst that the other person's thrown at me and put it onto the next person. Jess, how do you feel about that?
Yes, absolutely. I think just to touch on the breathing, I think most of us use it as a means to survive. And of course we do, because we need it to survive. But it's absolutely a tool that we can use to thrive more than survive. And it really is taking those 30 seconds to do, I like to do the box breathing, where it's 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold. And you just follow this box in your mind. Whatever works for you, whatever breathing pattern works for you. If you just sort of put out times in your day where you can do this throughout your day, you can really use it to thrive rather than survive. And then I think in terms of the resilience, when we had this topic come up, lessons from nature, just automatically I had this image in my mind of a tar driveway that literally has weeds growing out of a tar driveway, or like a building that has been abandoned for 10 years and there's a tree growing out of this building, you know, those sort of images. I mean, that is just resilience at its absolute finest. Like a tar driveway is the least conducive environment for anything to grow, let alone actually thrive. Yet it's in those sort of environments that nature can find itself thriving. And then I think on the flip side to the resilience, there's also a large portion of plants and nature and just nature environments that needs a lot of help in order to thrive. You know, there's plants that need to be pruned, there's plants that need to be weeded out, there's plants that need to be watered, and a lot of care needs to be put into them, and a lot of time needs to be taken. You know, some even need structures to uphold them for them to thrive. So on the one side, we have these plants that are super resilient, and then on the other side, we have those that need extra care. And I think it's just a lovely sort of symbol and metaphor for our lives. You know, there's times where we may be the weed, and there's times where we may need to be pruned. And that's okay, you know, and to go through those sort of seasons and go with the flow as we move through these stages of resilience and maybe needing a little bit of help, and to say, hey, I need to be weeded, or I need to be propped, or I need to be whatever it is. And to take that on. But absolutely resilience and breathing and flow. And I think nature really reminds us about that breathing. You know, if you have a long, hard day and you sit down and you see the sunset, automatically your body just goes, and you're like, there's these constant cues, if you look for them in nature, that remind you to take in the beauty and to live in the moment and to actually just breathe. So we really just have to be open to these cues, because they're everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think it's so important to get into nature. And I know one of the questions that's coming up in the poll later is, when last were you in nature? And I said to my husband this week, I said, we've really been working flat out. It's been so busy. The build up to Black Friday is huge. And next weekend, we're working all weekend. Let's go to our farm and just walk in the bush. And we walked in the bush yesterday. And he said to me, I can't believe how it's grounded me. I feel so much better just walking in the bush. And that's, why do we live in Africa? We live in Africa. When you leave Africa, what's the first thing you crave? You crave the bush. You crave that walking in the bush. I walked between my zebra and my giraffe, and I just saw these amazing animals looking back at me, and they were taking it all in. And that really does ground you. I know Glenda had a swim in Thompson's Bay, which I do with her when I'm in Durban. Just swimming in the sea, just getting that out there, and just releasing all your tension and just getting nature to fill your cup again. I think that's really important. Stacey, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. It was very interesting. While Lee was talking, I was reminded of a program that I watched that was based soon after World War II. And it was in different cities around Europe, and how in these cities, they were completely destroyed. And most of the buildings didn't have roofs. There was just rubble all in the streets. And I thought, sure, is that actually what Europe looked like after World War II? So I went and looked it up myself, and a whole lot of that's exactly what the cities looked like. They were completely destroyed, and the resilience of the people to build them up and rebuild and make those buildings beautiful again, like that really spoke to me about being proactive. So we can have trauma, we can have destruction, and we can be proactive in our resilience, and rebuild and reclaim the spaces that have been lost or broken. And then when you spoke about the TRE, and I was rethinking about Sharice, our specialist, after the unrest, we've got an employee wellness program on Connectable Life, and we run webinars as part of the employee wellness programs. And a bunch of companies reached out to us and said their staff, and it was also COVID related, some of the companies had quite a few deaths as a result of COVID, and their staff were really struggling to process all of this, obviously. And so they contacted us about different trauma workshops, and we asked Sharice to do a few of them, because she teaches you these techniques, and she shows how through 6 small sessions, like short sessions, she teaches your body to release the trauma. So some people struggle to speak it out, and even if they do speak it out, their body still holds on to that trauma and that tension. And she teaches you to release the tension through a series of exercises. It was absolutely incredible.
Is amazing. And I would say there's an expert for every single thing that you need. And I think that's why this is such an amazing program for us to be on, because people can see that there is something, that they're not the only one. To me, it's so amazing when people come and say, Margaret, I've really suffered through COVID. And I would say, you're not alone. We all did this together. But they think they're the only one who suffered. Everybody else just sailed through it, but they suffered. So now, Lee, I know you had a poll that you were going to put up. So do you want to, Shane, so we put up the poll so long, and then you just talk us through the poll and why you put these questions out there?
Well, actually, I'm going to ask a couple of questions first before we get to the poll. But I just love what everyone's been mentioning here. I have an image in my head. Jess, you were talking about the tar with like a weed or a flower that comes up, and really sometimes I see examples in nature, because I find I get my peace, my everything being out in nature. And sometimes I'll see an example of something that has happened over time. So there'll be a huge boulder, and you'll see a tree that has grown around the boulder, and somehow, and it's like there is always a way. And yeah. I think when we get stuck in kind of, everything is so awful, we forget that there is a way out. It might take us a little while longer. It might not be kind of, tomorrow, but there is always a way. And it can be really comforting to remind ourselves that, we will, if we look for the path of least resistance, we can make things a lot easier for ourselves, because life is challenging enough. And I know with a lot of people kind of feeling disconnected over the last 18 months, connection, and that's why I love Connectable Life so much. the essence of connection is absolutely vital for us. We are social creatures. We are, we thrive, to your point, on kind of being together with the people that we love and having our purpose. And I wanted to just kind of touch in very quickly on how we can connect with nature and just remind ourselves of, the easier way to do these things. And one of them is to think about your own circadian rhythms, because that's how you connect yourself to kind of how the earth breathes in and out, how the planet functions. And your circadian cycle is controlled by a part of the brain known as the hypothalamus, which is, it's like the master control, the center for integrating information and establishing your sleep patterns. And that part of your brain will receive signals from your environment and activate hormones and it'll alter your body temperature and regulate your metabolism. And there are all these things that are connected and happening within us all the time, just like there are so many things happening around us in nature all the time. And we don't know about them. We don't register them. And I want to invite everyone to just, think a little bit about how you connect with your own rhythms. So, if you're feeling sort of tired and, it's Monday and I don't want to do this, and when do you work best, like with yourself? Are you a morning person or an afternoon person? Some people like to say, yes, I'm a night owl. I work through the night. That's when I function best. Do some practice and find out when you work best for yourself. Are you an owl or a fowl? I love it. But kind of figure out when you work best for yourself, and then also ask yourself, when do you work best with others? Do you prefer to have team meetings in the morning? Do you prefer to do your thinking in the morning and get together with people in the afternoon? Look at how your rhythms can help you function. And I'm going to say, look to nature as well for, I always love the example of birds. I love listening to birds wherever I am. And birds, they work with the sun. So they'll start tweeting early in the morning, and then they'll start, tweeting as the sun goes down. And they remind us of how to get into our rhythms. And I don't know how many of you know about the light spectrum and what happens to us, how our sleep gets disrupted if we spend all of our time on our phones like this, first thing in the morning and late at night. And that blue light really messes with your circadian rhythms. And so there are a couple of things. One is that I suggest, if you can invest in them, is a pair of blue light blockers like these. Not only do they give you a lovely rosy tinted view of the world, but they also, they help when you are looking at screens. I know you can also, some of the sort of later model phones and things have a blue light screen that you can activate. And you have night mode and things like that on your devices. And I really would recommend that you use those, you set them up, because what you don't register is how you are out of sync and creating disruption for yourself when you look at the TV screen or the laptop or whatever late into the evening, and then you wonder why you don't sleep properly. Yeah. Or you wake up the next morning and you go, I'm so not feeling good today. Like I don't feel refreshed. I don't feel like I'm ready to thrive and go with the day. And a lot of that comes from the habits that we have formed and that we just, we start doing without thinking properly. And so to get back into your connection with yourself, with your circadian rhythm, to understand, and I know load shedding is a nightmare a lot of the time, but if you can, thinking about like how to embrace something that you can't control, but how to embrace load shedding, think of it as a way of helping you disconnect from your devices if you have load shedding in the evening. And I know it's very difficult when you have to cook dinner and your kids are kind of needing your attention and stuff, but try and turn it into something positive and and use candlelight rather than electric light in the evening as a means to help you wind down for sleep, to prepare your body for sleep, because sleep is essential. It is absolutely essential. And if you don't get good rest, you can't function properly. There are so many things that are happening all the time in your body that will be disrupted, and then your immune system's compromised, and you're short-tempered with your family and your colleagues and your, whoever is around you, your spouse. And think of ways, I also always say to people, please, no TV in your bedroom. Not only are you the light that you're then kind of exposing yourself to all the time is not very positive, shall we say. You're also damaging your relationship, with your partner. You're sitting watching the TV when you should be spending some time together. So just think about little ways that you can reconnect with yourself and your own rhythms, and find the connection, find the little points of connection that will help you to, I want to say, just inhale and exhale as you go through your day. That was the last thing I wanted to say. And maybe Shane, now would be a good time for you to put up that poll, was to say, how often do you get to spend time in nature? Is it every day, more than twice a week, on weekends, if you're lucky, once a month maybe, or outside? Who goes outside these days? Like, I've got Netflix series to watch.
It's so true. I think we've got to really make sure that we do plan to go outside. Like everything else, you've got to plan the sections of your life. Now, when it comes to sleep, I'm always a bone of contention because I don't sleep. I've never been a sleeper ever. My mother will tell you when I was a baby, I never slept. And I only sleep 4 hours a night. So Tony Robbins, by the way, also only sleeps 4 hours a night. For me, it's fine. I'm not saying that everybody should do it, but for me, that's all I need. And literally, I flew into Cape Town last night. By the time I got into my flat, it was 11 o'clock. By the time I got myself unpacked and sorted, had my shower, got into bed, it was midnight, and at 4 o'clock my alarm went off, and I felt absolutely fine. For me, that is perfect. I'm not saying everybody must do that. My little grandson is a sleeper. He just loves his sleep. He's always been a fabulous baby, always slept right through, no hassles. His mother tried to get him up this morning and she couldn't get him up. I said, you know what, just leave him to sleep. Leave him to sleep, because he must sleep now. He's growing and he must just sleep as much as he wants to sleep. And when he's finished sleeping, then you get him up and take him to school. So he went to school at 10 o'clock today. Not exactly ideal, but I think everybody has to do what suits them. You can't say this is the rule for everybody. You must sleep 8 hours a night. No, it's not going to work. And I say to people also, that's why it's so important to have a good bed, because I say to people, how much did you spend on your car? And they say 300,000, 400,000, 500,000. How long did you spend in your car? Oh, about half an hour a day. Okay, now tell me about your bed. How much did you spend on your bed? Oh my God, I had my bed. I got it from my mom when she moved out. Well, that was like a 400 rand bed, and I've had it for the last 20 years. I say, that's why you're not sleeping right. You can't do that. You've got to have a really good bed, and a good bed will make a huge difference. And especially if you've got a partner who's restless, you get a pocket core bed so that your partner can move around and you won't be coming out of your delta sleep all the time. I think sleep is one thing that we could have a whole conversation on. But I really think that people, a lot of people do sleep too much. A lot of people just exhaust themselves by watching days of other people's lives, and then they start to go and have a good sleep and sleep it all off. And the most amazing thing to me is this morning when I came in, we've had a very busy weekend. It's the lead up to Black Friday. It was extremely busy. I walked to the manager. I said to him, hi, how are you this morning? He said, I'm so tired. I said, do you understand by saying that you're actually making yourself tired? You're telling your body you're tired. And I said, my work energizes me. I'm so energized now. I can just run. I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I'm going to go the whole day. I think it's so important that you've got to understand that you've got to energize yourself by the words you speak. I said to him, even if you felt like, the other one walks in, I said, how are you doing? Said, I'm suffering. I said, oh my God, you can't say that, because the words you speak are what you prophesy into your life. It's so important that you decide what type of a life do you want. Do you want a life where you're tired all the time? Do you want a life that you're suffering? Or do you want a life where my God, today is a fabulous day and I'm going to go out and make it happen. And I think we are all the type of people, but how do we deal with, I'm going to ask you this one, Stacey, how do we deal with people who are always tired and suffering and they feel it virtuous to be exhausted and be suffering, where I think, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, I feel exactly the same as you, Margaret. It's all about the words that you choose to speak. Like, you're allowed to be tired and you're allowed to be not having a great day, but to not dwell in that. So if that's how you want to, like, you want to acknowledge that you're not having the best time, fine. Say, oh, I didn't have a great night's sleep, but today is going to be amazing. And tonight I'm going to get in a fabulous night's sleep. I'm going to put things in place and I'm going to make it work for me, to own what you are thinking and feeling, but changing it so that you are at least speaking the truth, but changing the narrative, But talking about sleep, we actually run sleep webinars with one of our specialists, and she teaches you so many different things, from your hormones to circadian rhythms to having enough light exposure. And it's absolutely fascinating. So it is a definite subject that can be spoken about.
Yeah. And Jess, let me just come through to you. And how important do you think it is to go into nature on a regular basis? Because, I mean, the kids today, they're playing on their tablets all the time. They're sitting in the TV lounge. The old days of running outside with the ball, those days have gone. A lot of children that, especially I run schools, for instance, I run a school that's on the Durban beachfront where all the kids live in those flats. They never ever go out. When I take them to my farm, some of them had never put their feet on grass. They were, 3 and 4 years old. They'd never ever put their feet on grass without shoes before. So to me, that was absolutely, mind-blowing. They also, by the way, never patted a dog. They were terrified of my dogs. And I said to them, no, you can. You've got to pat them and stroke them slowly. And by the end of it, they were loving these animals. So I think it's things that we take for granted that children are just not doing today. Jess, what do you feel about that? How should we rectify this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think being in nature is vitally important. I mean, just something as simple as low vitamin D levels and the link between that and depression, so the benefits that we get from the actual elements of nature, I think it just makes us compassionate. It forces us to think, which means we get to know ourselves better. And I mean, this is our world, and we need to live in it. Something I did want to touch on before we move forward was the point about knowing ourselves and our strengths. And I think something that we can really also learn from nature is how they get to know, wildlife now I'm talking about, how they get to know their strengths, because if they don't play on their strengths and use their strengths, they will be eaten. They will not survive. So it is vitally important for them to know their strengths. And I think the point I really want to make is that they work together and they use each other's strengths to survive. So I don't want to misquote or mis sort of represent anything, but for example, you'll very often find a giraffe with a zebra, because a giraffe can possibly see a threat before a zebra can, and a zebra and a wildebeest, for example, because they eat the same plant but different parts of the plant. So they've found ways to coexist, but to play on each other's strengths to really make it a good life. Otherwise, they will not survive. And I think it's something that we can take into teams and workplaces and family units, whatever it is, and to look at giving people roles and duties based on their strengths rather than their title as such. Because, if we're going to enjoy doing something, and if it's something that we're good at, we're going to do it really well. And if everybody in the team is doing something they enjoy and that they're good at, we're obviously going to have a much better sort of product at the end of the day. So to really know ourselves and to use those strengths and cohesively in a team as well, and to help each other out that way.
Oh, wow. There's our results of our poll. Only 29% go every day. 18% go more than twice a week. 29% go on weekdays, once a month, 18%, and outside. Who goes there these days? Oh my gosh, there's 7% of the people who say I never go outside. So we really have to get them outside and living the life, because that's just so important. I always want to talk about plants in the home, because I'm the type of person who looks at plants and they die. I'm sorry, but they do. Now, the lady who runs my farm, I have the most beautiful garden at my farm. She looks at plants and they just thrive. I just don't know if I've got the wrong type of energy. So how important is it now? And also I move around a lot. So I love having plants, and I always have live flowers in my house. But how important is it to have that, or have plastic or silk plants or silk flowers? My son can't stand them. He always tries to chuck them out. But to me, it works for me to have some silk plants, and then I mix them with my real flowers as well. How important is it to have flowers in the home? I know that roses have the most energy of any plant. I know I've heard that one before. But Lee, do you want to talk about that?
You know, I'm going to say whatever works for you works for you. I love plants as well, so I'm always keen on having kind of an amalgamation of outdoors and indoors. And if I can't be outside, then I will want to have plants around me. I will say, though, that some people have put plastic grass down in their gardens as a means of you know, I don't know, just a kind of easy maintenance.
Yeah.
And that I will say, there is something that happens, you know, that it's something like millions of microbes in a teaspoon. There are millions of microbes in a teaspoon of soil. And if we are not like connected to the earth in some way, getting outside and just, obviously, please use your discretion. I don't mean go outside and walk where there's broken glass and things, but try and get outside and walk barefoot. If you have plants, you know, find the plants that bring that. I know that there's certain plants, like they don't recommend that you have very spiky plants in a place where your family gets together, because that can kind of make for spiky conversations. So it's kind of having softer, more gentle, if you like, plants in your home. And there's a lovely quote, I think it was Bruce Lee, who said, the mind is like a fertile garden in which anything is planted, whether it's weeds or flowers, will grow. And you know, having a connection with a plant. I mean, some people swear by singing to their plants and talking to their plants, and you know, plants grow and have photosynthesis and all of that stuff. So there's no reason why they shouldn't respond to the love that we feel. And I say, you know, if there's a plastic plant that works for you in your home because it reminds you of nature and it looks beautiful, then that's great. I will say, I will add to that, if you can get outside and stand on the soil, go and put your feet in the ocean if you live at the sea, or go and stand next to a dam, or sit under a tree, or, you know, do something. Walk on the beach, yes. Anywhere where you can just, it's literally immerse yourself in nature, you will have that connection. And I think plants add something to a room as well. You know, if you're someone who's perhaps living in I don't know, a tall built up environment, you know, you might be in a block of flats or something, you maybe can't get outside, but you can have plants around you. I'm just looking at the lovely plants that Jess has got behind her in the wall.
They're all real.
But you know, that's lovely. Sometimes that's the connection that we can make to nature, because we're not able to access, you know, a park or something because of where we live. So I say use whatever you can that works for you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, plants have energy as well. They give off energy, and they've seen that even with water has energy. Everything is connected to energy. So at the end of the day, if you can have that really good energy in your home going on. Now, to people who are feeling anxious and saying, this is all very well, but I'm just feeling so anxious these days, where does one start with their breathing, with nature, with getting a good bed, a good night's sleep? Where do you start? Somebody's sitting out there now saying, but you know, they're talking about this, but I'm just so anxious. I don't know what's happening, what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm still going to have my job this time next month. I don't know how I'm going to manage Christmas, because, you know, my friends and relations can't come and spend it with me. What do you say to them? Where do they start to just, you know, go with the flow and just get into themselves and tap into their inner strength?
I would say the very first place to start is by having some compassion towards yourself. We have all been through a really traumatic time over the last 18 months. There's no one anywhere who can say that they've avoided any kind of trauma. And a really good starting place is to just acknowledge where you are. Sometimes just being able to say out loud, whether it's to someone else or just to yourself, whether you want to journal it or speak it, to step outside if you want to and just go, okay, you know what? This is what's going on for me right now. And it's, you know, it may not be ideal, but it's where I'm at. That level of compassion, that level of, it's almost awareness of where we are, will help then to say, okay, what's the next tiny, tiny micro step that I can take to bring myself a feeling of relief? Because so often when we're feeling anxious or depressed or angry or something, you know, you can't go from a place of feeling bad to like, woohoo, I'm like so ready for whatever. It's not possible. We have to do it in steps, in stages. And you know, I, as someone who suffered from anxiety and depression for years, I will say, when you're in that space, it feels like, you know, you don't know which foot to put forward, never mind how to take the next step. And to have compassion with yourself in that moment and say, you know what, maybe right now I don't know what my next step is, but I will figure it out. You know, we kind of, we forget.
One of us is frozen. I think it's me.
Oh, when we have forgotten how to just remind ourselves that as bad as things are, we will get through it. It's reminding ourselves of our resilience. You know, when things are really bad, that first place where you can just hold yourself, and that's where perhaps that breathing example where you put your hand on your belly, it's quite a comforting thing, you know, if you're in a difficult place, to just go, okay, you know what, I don't know the answer right now. And that's okay, because I'm smart, I'm resilient. You know, I've got to, you know, insert your age here. I'm so many years old, and look, I've survived up to now. Yeah. We forget to give ourselves credit a lot of the time for all the stuff that we've been through. So in that moment, to just go, okay, I'm aware of my situation and I will figure out the next step. That for me would be like how to hold that original space. And
yeah, well, I tell people, when you're feeling like you really don't know which way is up, which way am I going to turn, you actually go outside and you spin 3 times, and you'll find if you are giddy when you finish spinning, you're out of kilter. And that's where out of kilter comes from. You either use the world spinning, you spinning on the world, and sometimes you're just spinning at the wrong speed. And to people who are really uptight, just try it. You spin around 3 times. If you're feeling giddy, you pull yourself into kilter. If you're not feeling giddy, it means you were in kilter and there's something else wrong. But 99 times out of 100, you'll say, I was so giddy, and I just came back and I just aligned myself with the universe. And it just makes a huge, huge difference in your life. Especially our guys, and they say, oh, I'm just anxious today, I don't know what to do. Spin 3 times, it definitely works.
I love that.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that too. So what I've chosen to do, like talking about the kids and screen time and all of that, is I've thought to myself, you know, I want to raise them to, you know, they're in such a screen world, and I want to raise them to remember nature, to go outside, to take that time. So my kids are allowed to watch a little bit of screens kind of every day, but they have to be able to go outside first. So I make a point of they have to have at least half an hour or an hour of outside time, and then they can have like 10 minutes of wind down time before bed, or before our story time in the evening. And for me, that allows the process, like for everything to be ticked off nicely, you know.
Definitely, I think. Sorry, carry on, Lee.
Oh, I was just going to say, in 2019, I found a couple of studies just talking about spending time outside and reconnecting ourselves with nature. And in 2019, there was a study published in Scientific Reports, and I'm just going to read some of this here. And they said they found the optimal time to spend in green spaces Now, whether that's kind of outside playing in the dirt or walking in the park or whatever it means, they said the optimal amount of time is 2 hours a week. Yeah. And those results were consistent across all the sample groups that they worked with. So regardless of gender, of age, of your living location, social class, all of that, they said 2 hours a week was optimal. And what that resulted in was an increase in levels of activity. Obviously, you're kind of doing some moderate exercise, lowering of stress, increased relaxation, increased concentration and creativity. And there was another study that they did that said that problem-solving abilities, so your creativity and problem-solving abilities, increased by up to 50% by spending time outside. And to Jess's point earlier about vitamin D, that there's an increase in vitamin D and therefore a benefit to your immune system, an increase in, or a feeling better, if you like, of your mood, and a lowering of blood pressure. So all of those things, whether it's for you, your family, your kids, your colleagues, you know, get outside, just spend. And here's another quote that I love so much, and it's from, there's a Tibetan monk called Thich Nhat Hanh, and he said, walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Beautiful.
Walk as if you are kissing the earth with your feet. Isn't that just divine? I kind of saw that, and I mean, there, goosebumps. It happens every time I think of it. And we do need to remind ourselves to give ourselves space to breathe. And I did want to say, I love how the universe works, because this week, for those of you who are in South Africa, this week, the 22nd through the 28th of November, we have free entry to all of our South African national parks.
Oh, wow.
Yay!
That's amazing.
Sure. If only they made that like more readily known. That's incredible.
We'll put it out there as well, and Shane will put it out to everybody. And for me, who had never been to see the flowers, I went to see the flowers this year, and it was just the most spiritual experience ever, because it was just I mean, it just filled you up, it filled your cup. It was just amazing. So I think we've got to get out and into the parks. Now it's almost time to wrap up. So just a quick wrap up from you about being out in nature, in the environment, affecting your mood and really making you feel better, because everything we just do to make ourselves happy, and decide to be happy, and just decide that, you know, I'm going to be happy today no matter what. But we seem to feel that we need all these things to buoy us up, to make us happy. Jess, just a quick roundup from you.
Yeah, I think we can absolutely use nature to remind us of all those things. You know, even if it's every sunrise, every sunset, the seasons changing, whatever it is, there's so many lessons we can take from it and cues that we can use. But I also just wanted to mention that my brother is a photographic safari guide, and so he spends a lot of time in the bush and with wildlife and all the rest of it. And last week he had a quick Q&A on Instagram where people could type messages. And with today in mind, I sent him a quick message to say, what are your top 3 lessons from nature? And I want to attach a picture that he responded. It's only 3 words, which is why I want to attach the 3 photographs of his that he used, because I just thought that it sums it up so beautifully. I'll try to show it on my screen on my phone for those that are on Facebook. But basically his very quick response, I'm not going to be able to do it with my background.
Should we share it?
It's in the chat.
Share.
Yeah. But he said patience, courage, and family. And it goes so perfectly with each of the pictures that he chose. And I just thought, if we could start every day with patience towards ourselves and those around us, if we could, you know, go into everything with courage, regardless of how we're feeling, and if we did it all with the love and connection of family and those close to us, then we've got a pretty good recipe for life. So I really wish that I could. There we go.
Okay, beautiful. We'll put it as an attachment on the group for those who are watching later. Super. And then Stacey, just a wrap up from you quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I live on a farm, so as much as maybe I should walk more on the ground, I feel like us living, just outside of a big city, outside of the concrete walls, it's easier for us to feel like we are in nature. But it is something that we need to be deliberate about. It's something that we need to choose to get outside, to get grounded, to just breathe in the fresh air. When you go and you look at all the research around mindfulness and relaxation, a lot of it has to do with the outdoors. A lot of it is to do with getting vitamin D, sunlight on our skin, sunlight in our eyes. I mean, a large part of our sleep circadian rhythm is about getting those, it's called lux, the lux light meter. We need to get those 10, it's meant the correct requirement is 10,000 lux per day that we need to try and get in the morning and, receive in our eyes. So that's really important. Another, there's such wonderful documentaries out there at the moment on these different topics of nature. And one of them is called Kiss the Ground. It was an absolute game changer for me. When I watched it, I just fell in love with soil and the importance of soil in our lives. And so I would recommend that everybody, it's on Netflix. And if you don't have a Netflix like a subscription yourself, go to a friend and watch it at a friend's house. It is worth every single person watching and every single child watching. I made our kids watch it. I mean, some of our kids are small, and it's just the importance of understanding the value of soil in our lives. And I mean, it's quite incredible actually. So yeah, it's important to know how good nature is for us and to actually make the effort to live in that.
Fantastic. And Lee, just a quick wrap up from you. Thank you so much for your insights today. They've been amazing. They make us feel so much better. It fills our cup. And just a quick wrap up from you, if anybody wants to get hold of you, and what are your real areas of expertise when it comes to living in nature?
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much to you and to everyone just for being here. I get so excited when I hear conversations like this. I work, yes, as a life and career coach. And what's really important for me is to help us remind ourselves how to just reconnect with who we are, because who we are is magnificent. And, we forget about it in the stress and trials and whatever of our lives. And I want to thank you, Margaret, for creating this platform, and to Stacey and Jess for Connectable Life, because I think what you guys are doing is just amazing. The collaboration and the co-creation that's going on is symptomatic of that beautiful symbiosis that we're seeing in nature. And whether it's thinking about the soil that we stand on, or how we breathe, or how we connect with our loved ones, all of that ties together to make us human, with our foibles and the stuff that happens to us. But it is just a means of reconnecting us with who we are. And thank you to everyone for your gifts that you give to the world.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being on today. And thank you to everybody. And this is a time we can connect with ourselves. This is a time for you where you can come to us. We're going to chat about things, and you must relate everything back to you. Does this affect me? Is this going to help me? And this is a you session. It's not about anybody else. It's just all about you. So those of you who watch today, thank you so much. Whatever you've learned, share it with everybody else, because, you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got to fill your own cup. But then when your cup is full, it will run over, and you can just give it to everybody. It is just amazing. Thank you so much, ladies, for being on the show today. I really appreciate all of you and input. Thank you, Lee, for being our guest speaker today. We really appreciate you. We'll put all your details in the chat so anybody watching later knows how to get hold of you. Thank you, Jess and Stacey, for setting it all up. And everybody, will see you next week. And I just want to mention that I've got Robin Banks talking at my Entrepreneurs Club on Friday. Robin Banks, a mind coach. He is absolutely phenomenal. Everybody who's met him absolutely loves him. I think he's amazing. I promote him absolutely unashamedly everywhere. What he teaches will benefit every single human being on this planet. So please join me at 11 o'clock on Friday. Meet Robin Banks if you haven't met him before. And if you have met him, you know it's going to be an hour of power. Thank you, ladies. I'll see you next Monday, 9 o'clock. We'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Margaret. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.